welcome to episode 21 Watercolour Whizz. Today we're going to paint this gorgeous daffodil floret. The two colours that I've got are more or less opposite each other on the colour wheel. I've got Aureolin, also known as Cobalt Yellow, and that's by Daniel Smith. Then I've got Moon Glow, which is by Daniel Smith, and actually I'm cheating a bit because Moon Glow is not a single colour paint. It's got three colours in it. It's got a bit of blue, a bit of green and a bit of purple in there, okay? But these two make a nice complement, and they will help me to get the shades on the daffodil leaves to show us where the sunlight is striking and make the forms and everything. So let's get going. So first of all, today I'm going to mix some of the Aureolin in the middle well. I'm adding some more water to it, and I'm going to paint this all over the daffodil. This is going to give me a nice yellow base, on top of which we'll then paint future further washes and shadows. Right, now I'm going to let that whole daffodil dry, so I'll see you in the next clip. Okay, the daffodil is bone dry now, so we can carry on working. As I look at my grayscale, it shows me where the areas of light are, where it gets a bit paler, where it gets a bit darker in grey, then further darks and darker again until it's almost black in those really strong shadows on the daffodil. And it's those contrasts of between light and dark that help us form the 3D of the daffodil. If the daffodil remains like this, the same tone or the same value, as you say in the USA, all over, then you're not going to have any shape. So first of all, I'm going to look at this image and I'm going to pull out with a thirsty brush. That's a brush that's been moistened and then dried on my towel so that it'll absorb some paint. I'm going to pull out all the highlights or all the white areas that I can see in this grayscale image. By the way, if you want to get this grayscale image and this image plus the outline plus the supplies list and everything, you can join me as a patron over on my Patreon site for as little as £2.50 a month, and you'll get over 18 other watercolour whizzes, plus about 100 full-length narrated watercolour tutorials. So it's a really good deal, really flexible, really affordable, and it keeps you motivated, you know, to get going with watercolour. So let's start pulling out some of these highlights. Right, so at this stage now, we're ready to lift out some highlights. And if we look at the grayscale, which you'll get, by the way, if you join me as a patron, it costs £2.50 a month, and you get the grayscale, the outline, the ref photo, the supplies list, and 18 other watercolour whizzes without the interfering adverts. So if you join me on my Patreon, it's a really sort of good deal, really flexible as well, and you can join and rejoin whenever you like. So if you want to look more into that, just click the link in the video. If you want to look into that, just click the link in the text below. So now I'm using this thirsty brush, which is a brush that I've moistened and then dried on my brush to make it absorbent, and I'm sucking out some highlights within the daffodil. don't worry if you're not totally accurate with these and if you overlap a little bit, because we will be doing darker tones around these to make them pop later on. So just generally place a highlight where you can see one from the grayscale image, if you've got the grayscale image. Okay, now let everything dry. Okay, with the daffodil dry now, I'm going to start re-wetting each of the petals with a bit of water. As accurately as I can. Now once I've re-wet the petal, I'm going to look at my grayscale and look at my original photograph and start adding some darker tone. So I'm going to pick up some more of that yellow, gamboge, mix it there. So obviously there's much more dark under there and dark at the bottom. And then with a very small brush, pick up a little bit of the ultramarine violet, tiny little speck, and mix that through. So I've darkened that down quite a bit now, and then drop some of that in that really dark shadow area you can see on the grayscale. Okay, so there's that petal there. Then let's work around this, let's do this one here. Because I don't want to touch that one because it's a bit close, although actually it's okay. Let's do this one now. So this one only has a tiny little bit of dark on it, so I'm using a much smaller brush now, a size 000 brush, small brush, and I'm going to pick up some more of that gamboge. I've got quite a viscous, it's not very runny, okay? I'm going to drop that under there where it comes out under the trumpet of the daffodil, and right there in the corner. Comes down about there, and the rest of it stays pale. So then I'm going to re-wet this one now. And again, let's have some more of that yellow, quite viscous again. So not much water in this, okay? Much darker under there. See how we're starting to form the petal? While this petal here is still quite damp, I'm going to go back in and pick up some more viscous gamboge. And I'm going to tilt this so that I'm going to pick up some more of that ultramarine and mix it again. So I've got a bit more of a gooey mixture because I feel I need to go a bit darker here with that shadow. And a bit darker under there as well. And then with a thirsty brush, which is a brush that I'm going to wet completely, really give it a good soak, and then I'm going to dry it on a towel so that it's now absorbent, and I'm going to drag out the highlight that you can see on the daffodil. A strong highlight along the sort of top centre of the daffodil. Let's drag it in this way. You need to keep rinsing your brush and drying it very well so that when you drag this across you're going to go back almost to the white of the paper, okay? Like that. And with this one I'm just going to lift out a bit more of a highlight again because that part of the petal is very pale. And same here, this part of the petal is very pale, so lift that out. You might need to do quite a bit of wipe in, rub in to get that effect. Right, let's move around now. Let's do this one. And I'm cutting around the fine detail of the ruffle around the trumpet of the daffodil because we really want to show that off because that's, you know, a key feature of this flower. Get that there. And if I can just show you, see the moisture, that's how it looks. It's got a pale shine on it, a faint shine on it. That's nice. Now ready for us to drop in some darker Indian yellow in this petal as well. This one is darker all over, and then into this we're going to pick up, into this Indian yellow, we're going to pick up a bit more of that ultramarine violet and give ourselves that strength of dark shadow in here. This is where we see the dark areas in this petal. Okay. I can move to this one now, moisten this one. I'm going to be careful not to let this water rush into this petal because it might cause a background, so I'm just leaving a millimetre gap there. Okay, right, this one, let's go for the Indian yellow, and again there's more Indian yellow in the centre. That's where the colour is it's darker in there. Now I'm going to lift out a sort of central vein. You can't really see it in the grayscale, but I feel it could do with one. A nice central vein in there. And maybe another one up there, that daffodil leaf. Okay. Lift one here as well, maybe. Right, again with the very small brush, I'm going to go for some gooey Indian yellow. Tiny little bit of that ultramarine violet, and again drop the darker area back in there again while it's still a bit damp. So forming that petal a little bit more. And now I want to go inside the throat of the daffodil. So I'm going to wet everything inside now. I'm going to be careful not to paint the ruffles, not to paint right to the edge of the ruffles, because we want those to be quite pale, more or less. So they'll show up against the shadow colour that we painted so far. So I'm just painting just shy of the edge of the ruffle on the daffodil trumpet, okay? Again, if I show you, see that? So it's mostly wet in the middle, okay? And again, it's not running with water, it's just got a bit of a shine on it. That's ready now to drop some colour in. So the colour we're going to go for is some of this Indian yellow again. Let's go deep in here. That's very dark in there, and then it comes out. Some of it comes over here. And let's go straight away for a bit more of that dark blue to give us some shadow colour in the throat of it there. And a little bit of that shadow cutting up into some of those fluted frills. And in some places just a few little lines to show that curve of those little frills that are breaking out. Then one more time, let's go back in again for a much stronger kick right in the throat of that daffodil now. It's quite a strong mix and it shouldn't run too far. This is right in the throat, deep into it, and it gives us depth. Again, just a couple of lines to give shape to this floret. Now what I'd like to do with a small lift out brush, I'm going to make it into a thirsty brush, so I've moistened it and I'm wiping it, and I'd like to just cut away a highlight just to help form that ruffle a bit more. I'm not totally following the grayscale at this point, I'm just sort of using artistic license here. Again, these grayscales are a guide, you haven't got to follow them slavishly, you know, you can modify things if you need to. There's a bit more of a highlight there. And then the stamens that are breaking out from the base, just cut those in as well. And I'm going to go back in with a bit more of that dark and paint around some of those stamens to make them pop even more. Right, so let me just zoom out now and show you how that's looking. I'll show you in a different light as well. I'm just turning the paper so you can see. We've got one last petal to do now. So moisten this petal. And again with my 000 brush, I'm going to pick up some of the yellow with it. It's got a tiny bit of the dark blue still in there from the last one I did. And I'm just going to drop in some shadow on this side and behind that ruffle. Make that ruffle pop there. Okay, and there we have our watercolour daffodil. So I hope you've enjoyed that process. And again, if you want to become a patron and get the paint along pack for this for free, plus watch it without adverts, and another 18 more like this, plus over 100 other videos with paint along packs and full narration and the chance to show your work in our monthly gallery, then please click the link to look at the patron options. And if you've got any questions about joining, just send me an email to Alison at thepotofenartist@hotmail.com. Membership on Patreon is totally flexible. It's from between £2.50 and £4 a month, which is an absolute bargain because you'll have plenty of chance to hone your skills with watercolour and see what your fellow classmates are doing as well, so you all learn from each other. Hey, thanks for watching. Bye for now.